Hey, Kyle, it's Jason Isbell.
How you doing, my friend?
Good, how are you today?
I'm well. You're back with the band. It's the 400 units. When did you know that this was going to be a band record and not just, another solo?
Well, really, it sort of seemed that way from the start, after we first started recording. And I thought about it some after the first couple of weeks of work when we had the bulk of the recording done. It occurred to me that it just wouldn't be the same kind of record without these guys and their input, so I wanted to give them credit for it, I've always used most of these folks, all of them when I could get them on records before, but this time I really felt like it was a team effort.
Yeah. Did they have a hand in the songwriting? I don't know to what extent, like musical or...
No, none of the songwriting. I co-wrote one song on the album with my wife, Amanda, but the rest of them I wrote on my own. I just felt like I came in with a bunch of finished songs and played them for everybody, and then I would play one song for the band and Dave Cobb, and then we would sit down and start recording. And I don't know, I just felt like they played the parts, the arrangements, the things that they brought to the table were really important. Mm-hmm. It sounds like a band record, for lack of a better way of describing it.
Right. So as far as the songwriting, how many of these songs were written pre-Trump versus post?
Was there a pre-Trump? I think we were always moving in that direction, weren't we? Pre-Trump was like, what, 1920? 1922? He's an old man. I mean, we've always lived in that world. It's just now it's more obvious. But no, a lot of these, probably half the record the songs were written after the election. I had a bunch of songs before that, but then, it became really important, I think, for me to write about what was going on currently.
What's interesting is, and especially on that first single, Hope the High Road, it's like you don't go for a direct kill on that. In fact, I'm using your actual quote there, you take the high road.
There's a point of diminishing returns, and my goal is not to throw out some zingers, and make myself feel superior to this person or to people who support him. That's not the point. That's not going to help anything. If you're yelling all the time, pretty soon you're just a crazy person yelling on the sidewalk. It doesn't matter what you're saying. So I think that the important thing for me to keep in mind is that if I do have the opportunity to open anybody's mind, whether it be one person or 10 people or 100 people or something small like that, I'm going to do it by writing really good songs that they can't get out of their head, and I'm going to do it by being smart and subtle and trying to explain something rationally that makes sense to me. I'm not going to do it by, making fun of somebody in a way that's flippant, that you just laugh off. I'm not trying to preach to the choir necessarily, I guess.
But you have to ask with the title like Molotov and the Russian timing, does that have anything to do with the other?
Well, that is a symbol of something that I think is in people's minds right now, but that song's not about that kind of thing. That's really that's a metaphor for the way I was living my life at one point in time, and the way the character in the song was living his life. It's more of a love song, that one, than anything else.
Just that title can't help but stand out, given the timing.
No, it's good. I'm glad that is noticed, in the group of songs that it's in, because you do think about those things when you're making an album, or when I'm making an album. I think about this song is not about any kind of social situation that's going on right now. That's particularly a very personal song with a personal story, but also I like to frame it around the image of something that is sort of revolutionary in a way.
And you're talking about your characters. I mean, I'm guessing your characters is a little bit of you and a little bit of fiction, but how close is that line?
Well, that's the beauty of writing songs. That one thing I like about songs is they don't categorize them that way. I mean, books and movies are put on the shelves based on whether or not they're true, but songs just go in, records just go in alphabetical order or genre. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that drew me to this particular type of writing. You can be as much or as little as you want to. That percentage changes in my mind. I mean, as time goes by, and I've heard other people say this. I've heard John Prine talk about this numerous times, but you don't realize when you write something how much it's about you. You might realize 20 or 30 or 40 years later oh my God, I was talking about myself, or I was talking about my mom, or I was talking about this or that in my own life. But at the time, you may think you're creating a character, and reality winds up explaining to you otherwise.
I hear that from a lot of artists, that you write it and then you figure it out later. Such an interesting way to kind of dive back into yourself. Of course, I mean,
those two parts of your brain may not be working at the same time. The part of your brain that rationalizes, okay, who am I talking to or who am I talking about, might not necessarily be the part that's open when you're creating. So you have to occupy one part of your brain with something else. Sometimes for me it's like driving or cutting the grass, doing some kind of menial task that involves a limited amount of concentration, so I can let the creative part of my brain sort of roam free.
And of course it makes for interesting sounds and interesting types of songs. I'm looking over at stuff even that's happened before the record comes out, like you covered Elbow. By the way, that is one of the most gorgeous renditions of any song, your version of New York Morning.
I'm glad that somebody noticed that. That sort of came and went in my world, because it's on the Lang Lang record, and his type of music is so very different from what I normally do. But I love Elbow. I think that's a great song, and they have such beautiful melodies. They sort of get dismissed as a mathy, proggy band by people on this side of the pond, but I really think they have something serious to offer, and I love singing that song.
Yeah, and
kind of felt like Celine Dion, all that production, strings and piano and orchestra and stuff. I was like, oh man, I don't get to do this ever. This is like I get to be a pop singer for a minute.
You got a Vegas residency coming up soon. It's
yeah.
But that's my point right there. Is we are all fans of music and we listen to many different styles, but of course you come out as a songwriter and you get labeled as something. And I don't know if you're doing it on purpose or if you're just going with your natural instinct, but doing something like the Ling Lang thing with Elbow, having Mountain Goats open up for you, is it a point for you to make that you are more than just an Americana genre artist or whatever it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what Americana is as a genre. I think it's people think of it as suspenders and stomping and clapping and haying and hoeing, but I really think that the thing about Americana that really started that whole terminology was that it was a non-genre. It was something incorporated all different types of roots music. But yeah, I don't know anybody who listens to one kind of music anymore. I certainly don't, and so I'm not interested in making just one kind of music. Now, there's some types of music that I'm not qualified to make, or that I make in the privacy of my own home, and would
I want to hear that
turn loose on the public. Yeah, that's what nobody will ever hear, because I'm not going to make a hip hop album or a blues album, but I may very well rap in the shower, Kyle. You just have to think about that and hope that it never gets out into the public.
Oh no, the exact opposite. If Trump has those tapes, I want to hear those tapes.
I mackle far too much, Kyle. I mackle far too much.
Does that I know the story behind the RCA studio and where the title comes from with the Nashville Sound, them calling that studio there, but what you're talking about, is there a bigger picture story with the album title?
Yeah, and I think it fits in really well with the last question, with what we were just talking about. The city here is not what people really expect it to be anymore. I mean, of course, still a good part of the creative talent and a good part of the money, the revenue here comes from the pop country world. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for how that bleeds into our types of music and more independent music, and we're able to use that for our own purposes. But there's a lot of really great rock music and punk rock music and crazy weird pop music and even hip hop and R&B that comes out of Nashville that I don't think a lot of people really realize is even coming from Nashville. I mean, you've got Paramore, and you've got Jack White, and you've got the Black Keys, and you've got all these bands who are, making huge statements and selling just as many albums, honestly, as most of your pop country acts. Other than Stapleton, he's selling more albums than everybody but Adele. But he's he's a little bit more on our side of the fence too, whether he likes to admit it or not.
I won't go for the easy question about how have kids changed your life, because I know you're going to get that question nonstop on this run here. But I will ask: has the children's music creeped into your life? Is that a thing that's happening in your household?
No, we don't listen to a lot of children's music. I mean, there are, she likes Solomon Burke and the Beatles, and
she's a Petty fan, right?
She's a big Petty fan, but she doesn't know much about Tom's music. See, all right, my friend Andy, who takes pictures of Petty on the road and travels with him, Andy Tennille, he sent me this picture that he took it's Tom on stage, and we hung it up in the bathroom. And so, when I go to the bathroom, I'm here home with the baby by myself a lot. So I have to go pee or something. She's not 2 years old yet. So I'm like, okay, let's go to the bathroom. Dad has to pee. So she'll go in the bathroom and stand there while I pee. And she'll look up at the painting and say Tom Petty, because when she was super little, she would point at the painting, and I'd say, that's Tom Petty. That's Tom Petty there. Now, so she says Tom Petty every time we go to the bathroom.
He's like Santa Claus.
Yeah, he is. And then the other night we were sitting at the table, and I was feeding her dinner, and it was spaghetti, and she didn't want to eat it. And I said, who loves spaghetti? Tom Petty loves spaghetti. And so we started singing that, and she started eating her dinner. And she ate all the spaghetti because this great mythical hero figure of Tom Petty likes spaghetti. So hopefully one day we'll figure out a way for her to share some spaghetti with Tom Petty.
Man, what a moment that would be right there. And Tom Petty's real. He's real. So
he's real. He's real, and he does like spaghetti. I mean, it's not a stretch. His keyboard player Ben Mott is a friend, and he retweeted. I tweeted about how I got her to eat a spaghetti that night, and Ben Mott retweeted it. So I'm thinking, man, next time they come to town, I got to figure out how to get my daughter around Tom and catering backstage, so maybe she can see for real that he really does like spaghetti.
I hope that happens, just so there's a great ending to that story.
I know. I hope so.
All right, buddy. It was really awesome talking to you as usual. Hopefully you get around to Louisville at some point, and congratulations on this record.
Be up there. So. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate your time, man. We'll see you when we get up there. I'm sure it won't be long.
All right. Take care, bud.
All right. You too. Have a good one.